All right, so Vivado is now installed and we're ready to get started with our first project. So we can go ahead and under Quick Start, say Create Project and click through Next. And we're ready to name our first project. So I'm going to call this one Hello World PS, which stands for the processing system, which just means that this is going to be a hello world using the embedded CPU, the ARM processor inside of the Zynq FPGA. And then we also can define the project location. If the default isn't what you want, you can select these three buttons over here and select your file path. One thing to note is that you cannot have any spaces in your file path. And so either create a new file path with no spaces or edit your existing file path so that you only have either underscores or no breaks at all. And then we do want to create a project subdirectory, so it'll create a project underneath our project location. We can go ahead, we're creating an RTL project, which simply means that we're going to be creating a project with new sources, either block designs or an HDL like Verilog or VHDL, and go through the full synthesis and implementation process. We do not want to specify any sources, and this is not going to be an extensible Vitis platform. This is only applicable if you have an accelerator that plugs into a desktop over a PCIe, which is not any of the development boards that we would be using. We are not going to specify or add any sources at this point, but I am going to specify that we'll be using VHDL as our target language. We don't currently have any constraints, which I will discuss and talk about a little bit later, so we can skip over that for now. And now we get to choose our part. So we have two options. We have to say which part we're using so that the software can know what our hardware FPGA resources are that it can use to synthesize and implement our project, whatever it is. So you can either find the specific part using one of these filters, or you can choose to use one of the boards that are available. The Xilinx off-the-shelf boards are all available, but as you can see, this is only for development boards that are provided by AMD itself. This doesn't include any third-party boards. And so what we're going to do is add in our Zybo board manually. So if we come back to our main Zybo page, we can scroll down and come down to some of these getting started tutorials. And you're welcome to go through these. I'll be going through each of these in a little more detail than are provided in the written descriptions, but you are certainly welcome to look through these. One thing that I am going to look through here is installing Digilent's board files. So in order to get Digilent's board files, we can either follow the links they have here or do a simple Google search and go to their GitHub where we can find their board files. For us, we want the new board files because we're using a Vivado version after 2014.4. So as long as that is the situation you're in, we can go to new board files. And actually, since we're doing this all manually, we're going to go back a level, come to code, and just download the zip file. It's going to be a little bit more universal for everyone. And then we can go ahead and extract these and extract them in the downloads. So we can then come into here. We want the new items, the board files, and we can either choose to install only the board that we care about. So in this case, the Zybo Z7-20 or the -10, depending on which board you're using. Or you can just choose to install all of these so that they're available if you ever choose to use a different one of Digilent's boards. I'm going to install all of these. So I'm going to just Control A, Control C to select all. And then we can come back here and they will show us where we need to install these. And so we go to our Vivado installation folder, which is usually directly at the base C drive, and then Xilinx Vivado. So we can come back here, go to our C drive, Xilinx Vivado, and then as you can see, I've previously installed 2024.2, and then in this case, we're using 2023.2. And then continue following the instructions. We can navigate to the data, boards, board files. So data, boards, board files doesn't exist, so I'm going to go ahead and create it. And paste all of those boards into that folder. So now we can close that out and come back down to Vivado. All right, so we've reloaded Vivado. We can now go back through and create our project. Once again, not specifying any sources or constraints. And now if we go to boards, we can search for the Zybo, and we want the Zybo -20 is the version of the board that I will be using. And we can go ahead and finish. You're now greeted with the main project summary page in Vivado. So if this is your first time, you can see over here we have sources, which includes our design sources, constraints, which will be empty right now, simulation sources, which is empty, and utility sources, which is empty. We also, on the far left, we can see our project manager with our settings, our IP integrator, which I'll discuss in a second. We can have the ability to then run through the full implementation process from simulation through RTL analysis, synthesis, implementation, and eventually programming and debugging with the bitstream. Each of these I'll talk about in more detail going forward. To start with, we are going to go ahead and create a block diagram. So I'll call this PS only. Once again, that's processing system only, which means I'm not doing anything other than instantiating the CPU in this block design. So we now have our blank diagram, and in general, the IP integrator has some big pros and big cons. So there's endless debate online about whether this should be used, and the reality is that if you are using a Zynq processor, you are required to use the IP integrator to some extent. I'll show you in the future how to move away from the IP integrator diagram, but that's a discussion for a future time. You do need to use this to instantiate or to bring into your project the Zynq processor. I also find it really helpful for beginners because it allows you to visualize a lot more what's going on. And so that works out well for us anyways. So IP just stands for intellectual property, which is a general FPGA term for a chunk of code that does something specific. So I know that's quite general, but we can look in here and start searching for our IP. And most of these are included free with Vivado. Some are from third parties that are paid, but everything that we'll be using will be free. So for instance, we want to add in a Zynq processing system. So again, PS processing system. And we can go ahead and bring that into the block diagram. If you click into this, you can see all the main blocks that exist inside of the processing system. There's a lot that can be discussed about the processing system, and we're only going to go very high level right now. But at this point, it's a totally blank slate. Nothing is configured. There's nothing that's telling Vivado how the processor relates to the actual circuit board. And so this is where us downloading the board file is really, really helpful. We don't need to define the DDR interfaces or the inputs and outputs for things like the USBs and the SD card slots, GPIO, any UARTs. Nothing like that has to be defined by us. The manufacturer of the board, whether that's AMD or Digilent, has already done all of that for us. And we get all that into Vivado by downloading the board file, which is what we just did. So that means that we can come up here and click Run Block Automation, and it's going to do the full automation of our processing system. Leave all of the defaults and just select OK. So that will run, and you can see that we now have DDR outputs and fixed IO outputs. So the DDR goes to the external DDR RAM that's on the physical circuit board, and the fixed IO mostly breaks out the MIO, the multiplexed IO, which if you click into this, you can now see that there are check marks of the implemented IO. So we have one USB controller, we have one SD controller, we have a UART controller, we have some general purpose inputs and outputs, GPIO, and we have an Ethernet controller. If you want, you can select and click into any of these, and this will show you how these are all implemented. If you look on here, you can see that there's also right here an AXI GPIO. There's a lot more to discuss on Axie, but we aren't going to need really any of these IOs other than the default DDR and the fixed IOs, because those relate to the circuit board itself. And so what we can then do is we don't need a clock, and so we can turn off the clock. This is a clock going. PL is programmable logic, or the actual FPGA fabric, not the processing system, not the CPU, but the FPGA part of the Zynq. We don't need to send any clocks into the programmable logic because we're not using the programmable logic in this project. So we can shut that off. We also don't need any connection between the PS and the PL, once again, because we're not using any of those connections. And so we can come down here and go into general purpose master Axie interfaces, and we can deselect that. So now those all will go away. And up here, when you do that, you'll get a bunch of errors, or not errors, but warnings. This is an errata from DigitalInt itself, which if you go back into their website, start going through their first Hello World project, and you scroll down about halfway through, you can see that they have a note here saying that this is an error. It says that these can be ignored, but basically what's happening is that if we go back into Vivado and look at our DDR configuration, and we go to the DQS to clock delay, there are a bunch of negative numbers here, and these don't actually matter for the functioning of the board, but in the older versions of Vivado, these negative numbers were necessary, and now they're throwing errors. So we can just go ahead and zero all of these out and select OK. And now if we come up here and try to validate our design, there are no errors. And so we solved all those problems. And we are now not going to get a bunch of warnings that we in theory could ignore, but that will be frustrating to look through and sort through. All right, so we now have our processing system, and we don't need to do anything other than this. And so what we can then do is right now we have a .bd, a block diagram, as our only source. But Vivado can't compile anything other than a VHDL or a Verilog file. And so we need to wrap this block diagram in VHDL or Verilog, in my case VHDL. And so we can right click on it and say create HDL wrapper. We will let Vivado manage that itself. The system will generate a wrapper, and now you can see that the sources are updating. And now we have a .v, which we don't want. We want VHDL. And so when I created my new folder, my new file, I must have done this incorrect. So we actually want target language to be VHDL. We can say OK. And if we right click on the wrapper and say remove file from project, also delete from local disk because we don't need this at all, then that's not going to touch the block diagram. It only deletes that top Verilog folder file. And now we can right click, say create HDL wrapper. And now we have a .vhd, which is a VHDL file. So we can click into this and we can see that we have this VHDL file. I'm not going to discuss this at this point. This is all auto-generated. You don't need to know what's actually going on here if you haven't used an HDL before. We'll just discuss that more later once we get into the actual HDL coding. And so now we have our top level VHDL file, and we can go ahead and run through synthesis, implementation, and generate a bit stream, which I'll discuss more in the next video.